Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to fill our green stalk with all of these wonderful vegetables. It's a little cool, so the only thing that we can put out here are cool weather crops. Come with me and let's get started. Now that the weather has started warming up just a little bit, I can actually get my cool weather crops out into my vertical planter, which is a green stalk. Cool weather crops can take a light frost, and I am 4 weeks away from my last frost date. But even if a frost comes, I have frost covers that can cover the green stalk. So we're going to go ahead and get a couple green stalks set up today so that we can start enjoying this luscious vegetables from my outdoor growing space. The first thing that we're going to need to do is refresh the soil in the green stalks. So these green stalks were set up last year. Some of them I was able to empty, and I emptied them, all of the containers right here beside me, and I cleaned up the containers. But some of them never got emptied. And so I'm going to clean those up. We're going to reuse the soil that's in there. So we're going to refresh the soil and we're going to set these two towers up. So come with me and let's just get this done. So again, the first step is to refresh the soil. So I am going to take down only the tiers that I need for now, and we will finish taking the rest of them down later. So we just want to make sure we're ready to go with these two towers that I'm going to put up. Over the last 48 hours, we've received some pretty heavy rains in the area. So this soil is extremely wet, which is okay. We won't work with it. So with it being extremely wet, it's very heavy. So we will do 2 tiers at a time, refreshing the soil and replanting the soil. My little wheelbarrow here, if I think that's what you still call it, even though it's not a traditional wheelbarrow, can only hold, it looks like, 2 original leaf tiers at a time. So my wheelbarrow's full, so we're going to start amending the soil to bring it back to life for this upcoming year. I think I'm all set up now. So as I said, we are going to be filling our green stalks. The green stalk is a vertical tower, and it grows a ton of food in a very small 2 foot by 2 foot space. If you don't know what a green stalk is, please check out my video, All Things Green Stalk, so you can get an understanding. And it's really, really nice if all you have is a patio or you don't have a lot of horizontal space, because you can grow vertically. But now I'm all set up, and we are going to start amending the soil from this green stalk. Based on what I had in this green stalk last year, it was a heavy nitrogen feeder because they were like greens. Your greens usually use a ton of nitrogen. So I want to make sure that I get nitrogen back into the soil here, as well as some organic matter. So I will be adding in some compost as well. So fertilizer, compost, worm castings. I'm going to give it a good mix and bring it right back to life. So I have mushroom compost, and I don't know anything about this name brand. It's just whatever they had at the nursery. I'm going to assume that it's okay. But this is mushroom compost along with some peat humus. And it's 100% peat based, no fillers, with the mushroom compost. So hopefully this will do a good job for me. And then I also have worm castings. And so typically when I try to buy worm castings, you get this teeny little container for worm castings. And I wanted a big bag. And I was able to find this here. Pure worm castings. It's an organic fertilizer. It has a N, P, and K of 100. N, P, and K, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus are the N, P, and K. So this is only going to give us nitrogen. which is perfect because I know I'm short on nitrogen. And then, of course, the compost is going to help me holistically across the N, P, and K, as well as some of the micronutrients that I need. So let me get these bags open, pour a little bit in, and let's start mixing it up. I'm also going to add some typical fertilizer. So I know this says Miracle Grow, but this is not Miracle Grow in this container. I just like the container because I can shake it out. I think this is Garden Tone that I actually have inside the container. Garden Tone is a pretty standard product for me to use, but typically I just get whatever's on sale, and Garden Tone usually has a great price. I take the Garden Tone and I put it in this container so I can shake it in and have a little better control of how I'm fertilizing the garden. So let's put some of the Garden Tone into the container. I decided to go get the bag so I can show you the Garden Tone. So it's an organic fertilizer. What is the NP and K? NP and K is a 344, which is actually really good. It's very low and it's very balanced. So Garden Tone is what I'm actually putting into this container right here. So I got the Garden Tone into the top maybe 4 inches of the soil. I'll go ahead and fill some of the containers up, and then I'll add some Garden Tone to the bottom half of this. I just didn't want to lose all of my soil since my wheelbarrow was so full. So let's start putting that into, these are my leaf planters that I'm going to be working with today. So we'll start putting the soil into these. I should say potting soil. So this is not dirt. I started with it was a Pro Mix professional blend of potting mix from last year. And so that's what I'm starting with, and all I'm doing is refreshing that Pro Mix. You definitely need good quality potting soil. If you've been watching my videos, I got some bad potting soil, and some of the plants in my indoor growing space are suffering because of the poor soil. So good potting mix makes a difference. So spend a little extra money on good potting mix, or get kind of some middle of the road potting mix and amend it to improve the overall quality of it, because you need good draining soil and you want to make sure you have a good compost so you have plenty of organic matter in here so that your plants are nice and happy. When I'm filling my tiers for my GreenStalk, you can see, or maybe you can't, but there are holes all along the bottom and there's a hole right in the middle here. So when I'm filling, I like to put a little stopper cap right there in the middle so I don't lose so much soil as I'm filling the pocket. So just put a little cap on it. And then when I fill it, I won't lose any soil down the middle. I am in zone 6A. My last frost date supposed to be the last week in April. Yeah, but I live in Ohio. You can't believe that. Southwest Ohio, you don't like the weather, just wait, it'll change. So I'm being very cautious in what I'm deciding to put outside, because I want to make sure I don't lose it to a late snow or frost or freeze or anything like that. And GreenStalk does come with frost covers as well as insect covers. So I have a few of those that I can pull out if need be. The squirrels keep putting peanuts in my containers. So I have a neighbor who likes to feed the squirrels. They think they're cute and cuddly. The squirrels and I are not friends when it comes to the garden. So they keep burying peanuts in my garden. When you're filling your pockets, you want to fill them all the way to the top. So there's actually a line on each of the tiers that says fill soil to top. So you really want it all the way to the top. And this soil is nice and damp, so I don't have to wet it down since it's so damp. But if you put dry soil in and you wet it down, you'll see that it'll settle down and you'll need more soil. So if you're using dry potting mix, you want to wet that down really, really good and make sure that the soil has settled. And then you're going to need to top it off because during the season, that soil will start dipping lower and lower. So make sure you fill all the way up to the top of each one of the tiers. This tier right now is done until I start putting plants in, and then I'll add some additional soil when I get to the plants. So even though I mixed the compost up really well and the worm castings, I didn't with the fertilizer. So we're going to add a little bit more now and finish mixing that in.
I continued mixing the soil and filling the containers in preparation for filling them up with my plant starts.
Now it's time to grab these vegetables and start getting them placed.
I had a variety of vegetables that I've been hardening off over the last 2 weeks, but I was specifically looking for different types of lettuce.
Now that we're placing the vegetables into each one of the pockets, I prefer when I'm putting my tower together for the first time, and if I have starts, so if I have plants that I'm putting in, I prefer to put the plants in before I stack the tower. So that's what I'll be working on next. As I'm inserting the plants into each of the pockets, I will provide some Mycos. Mycos has a mycorrhizal inoculation built into this product here. So I will be sprinkling a little of that into each of the pockets. But first, we have to determine how we are going to manage our vegetable art, because that's what this will be for us. So this whole pocket will just be dark rodent and bib. This is dynamite. So let's get some dynamite over here. And this stuff is begging to come out of these pockets.
For the last 3 tiers, I planted kale and mustard greens.
All right, so I have most of the beds laid out. And so now I'm going to start placing them into the bed. Last year, I put about 6 greens in every pocket. But I started from seeds and I kept everything. This year, since I'm going with starts, I'm worried about crowding out the pockets. So right now I have 3 plants set for each pocket, but I think I'm going to go up to 4. And let's just see what happens. If it doesn't work, I got thousands of seeds and I will just replant the pocket. But I feel like 3 is not enough when I know I had 5, 6, probably even more than that in some of the pockets for the mustard greens for sure. And I always pick the greens young, so I'm not waiting for them to get huge and massive. So I'm picking them young, I'm picking them tender. So I think I can plant them a little closer together. But that's what we're going to try. So we're going to start putting those in now. When I'm planting in the pockets, I like to lean my plants to the outside so that I can make sure I don't disturb it when I put the tower together. I don't know. 3 is looking pretty good, but let's try 4. Let's see what it looks like. I think we can do 4. I really do. Again, I pick them young. I'm not going to let them get really large before I start cutting them. So I'm doing 4. I got to make sure that I put my mycorrhizal in there because I did forget. We'll do 2 pockets at a time. It only takes a teeny little bit. And then I just plant them back to the depth that they were. At least that's what I try to do. And we will keep spinning it around and we will keep going. These plants have been hardening off outside for actually about 2 weeks. There were a couple of days that I missed because it was just raining or it was just way too cold to be out here. But for about 2 weeks, they have been sitting in the sun, slowly hardening them off. A couple hours here, an hour there. I got them up to a full day, I don't know, about 3 days ago now. Prior to that, they sat in my family room This room right behind me that has a huge picture window, so it was getting some of the sun's rays, but not full sun like it was outside and having to deal with it. So they look like they're happy. They're good to go into the ground now, or into the GreenStalk, I should say. So we will keep going around this pocket here. We will continue to put 1, 2, 3. If I can count 4 in a pocket and mess that one up, now we got 4. I'm going to fast forward it so you don't have to worry about this. The process will be the same all the way around. For the greens, dinosaur kale here, mustard there, and then on the end is the curly kale. For these 3, I am going to put them on that green stalk that I'm building back there. That's an original leaf. It's 10 inches deep. I'm not going to plant that today, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in place. And then I have 3 leaf planters here that I will put on top of it. So this will have 4 tiers to that particular green stalk. So let me start building that green stalk. After you put the tier in, you have to go grab one of these gray trays. So these are the gray trays. You line the gray tray up. You want to first make sure that the holes are not plugged, and these are actually in really, really good shape. They're nice and clean, but you line it up. There's holes around each of the pockets, so you want to make sure that the hole lines up to each of the pockets. Once you've lined that up, you can start putting each of the additional trays on. So let me do that next. And there, fell right into place. So we add another gray watering pocket. You line it up, put it in, and grab another. One of the reasons I always lean them to the outside is so when I'm stacking them up on the pocket, I don't mess around and mess up my plants. So I like to do a quick check to make sure I'm okay there. And we will set it in. Everything looks good. So let me line it up and let it fall into place. There, fell right in. Need to double check. That one's a little tight. All of the rest of these looking good. They're to the outside. Oops, I smashed that one. All right. Adding another gray tray. Making sure the holes are not plugged. They're good. And so this one is only going to be 4 tiers high. And this tower is done. 3 layers of kale, nothing in the bottom yet, but we will add to it later. So now let's work on the next tower. Again, with this one, I'm not putting anything in that bottom tier, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in place. After your tier, remember the gray bin. So I'm going to put it in place. And now I need to finish putting these lettuce, and I believe that's a tomato I'm going to go ahead and put in place before I can stock the rest of them. So let's do that next. This tower here will be a lot of my vegetable art, is what I like to call it. So I have dark rodent in 3 pockets, and I have bib in 3 pockets, and it's every other pocket. So this should be very, very pretty when we're finished with it. And I'm only putting 1 plant in each pocket. 1 plant, that's it. And you're going to put the lettuce in basically to the same depth it already was. Sprinkle of mycos, and I do me very little mycos. It doesn't take much. And let's keep the pattern going. I need to backfill just a little more dirt. So if you recall, I tell you this dirt will start settling. And so if it settles, it's going to be very difficult to get more dirt in if you don't take the tower apart. So we want to make sure that we're nice and full. My dirt's nice and moist, so no need to water at this point either. This one is ready. And instead of stacking it, let's work on the other one. And I will continue this pattern around. One of the other things that I need to be careful of is that these particular lettuces are very root bound. So I should have loosened those up in those other pockets before I planted them. I didn't. It should be okay though. Honestly, it should be okay, but it would have been a preferred method to loosen those roots up before I buried them underneath the soil. But we'll make sure we do that here. So just loosening them up just a little bit at the bottom, disturbing those roots so that they'll want to take off again. So they'll know that they're no longer root bound. Same thing for this one here. So I had dynamite in my salad here a few days ago, and oh my goodness, it was so good. It was crispy, but it had a little sweetness to it as well. And I picked the heads when they were really young. So they were, really young and tender and delicious. Keyword, delicious, delicious. I'll talk a little bit about what's going in those bottom tiers. So I have some bok choy going in the bottom tiers of one of those for sure. And I have to double check to see what's going in the other one. This particular one is a hodgepodge of things. I don't have pretty vegetable art on this one. So for this particular one, I have some lettuce that found its way into some cauliflower. So this is a romaine lettuce. This is some dark rodent that's beautiful. Some red salad bowl. And then I have two tiny Tims. It's really, really, and I do mean really, really, really too early to put tomatoes out in my garden. But I have these two extra tiny Tims. What I'm going to do instead is save a pocket for it because I don't want to put them out here because it's cool weather season. It's not time for tomatoes to be in my garden in zone 6. But I'm going to save 2 spots for it. And I'm going to put these 2 tiny Tims in the 2 spots that I'm saving because I shouldn't be putting them in now. So I don't want to mess up and do that. So we will just set that to the side. I'm very anxious to get going this spring, but it's way too early. Way, 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 way too early. If you don't know which of your vegetables are cool weather crops, let me give you an idea. So lettuce can take a very light frost. Brassicas, so your cabbage, your broccoli, they say cauliflower and some of the other brassicas, but what's the other one there? Brussels sprouts should be able to take a little bit of cool weather. Nothing heavy from a frost standpoint or really, really cold weather. I usually hold off on those. I do put my broccoli in. I do put my cabbage in early, within a couple of weeks, if not 3 to 4 weeks of the last frost, because honestly, the cabbage tastes better after it's had a light frost on it. My greens, so your kales, your collard greens, they can take it as well. And so we are going to just put these out here and pray for spring weather. And if we don't get it, that's okay because I got plenty of more vegetables inside. We started from seed, so it's not like I paid $5 a plant for these. We should be good to go. And it's interesting, right, to see this dark rodent. It was on life support about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was dying. It was limp. It wasn't happy. I let it get too dry. I didn't keep enough water on it. So I kept up potting. And now it is gorgeous, 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 waiting for me to start harvesting it. But I got to get it in place first. Got to get it a little bit bigger before I can do that. So your lettuces can take a light frost. That's what I was doing, right? I was telling you about what can take a light frost. Carrots are actually sweeter after a frost. So that's another good one. Usually these crops will bolt as soon as summer comes. You're going to see flowers come up the center. It's going to get bitter. It's going to put seeds on. And it's hard to grow these items in like August. But if you just wait, if you're just patient, these are the type crops that you can get 2 crops within a season. So you can get them in the early spring, in the summer. Don't even think about them. If you get them, it's a blessing. But if you don't, it's okay, because you can get these again in the fall, at least in my zone, 6A, Southwest Ohio. The only other thing we have to do is start building this tower. We want our tomatoes to be up high, because my girls like to eat tomatoes while they're outside playing. So we will put them on the top layer and we will start stacking. Before every tier, you have to put a gray band in, and then you keep stacking. Gotta be extra careful because this lettuce is really large. Gotta be able to see what I'm doing though. There we go. It's in. I am not sitting on any of the leaves. Look at that. Beautiful. This one's good to go. I thought I actually had cleaned all of those up really well before putting them away. Nonetheless, let's get it to fall in place. There it is. Let's make sure our lettuce is out and happy. Now we're as high as we're going to go, so we need to add the top watering bin. And this tower is done as well. So I've completed these 2 towers today. In the bottom, we're going to have bok choy. In the bottom, we love bok choy, so we'll be growing lots of that. And that will be in the bottom of both of these. Maybe not. It may be in the bottom of one, and carrots may be in the other one. I'm going to have to double check. In this one here, I saved 2 pockets for some more micro dwarf tomatoes. So Tiny Tims only get about a foot tall. We will add them to the 2 pockets here, so the girls can snack on tomatoes while they're playing. I will continue to do more green stalks as we get closer and closer to my last frost date. I have a total of 8 green stalks that we'll be setting up. So this is just 2 of 8. There are 6 more green stalks that we're going to set up this year. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. I want to keep this content coming. More and more videos are going to come with me outside prepping the garden for the year and putting plants in the ground. Come with me and we will do this in 2023. Thanks. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.